What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and as always, you can follow me at Jake Crumpler on Twitter, and you can find all of my work at CrumplerBaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from yesterday, Tuesday, March 18th. We'll start it off, as always, by looking at the injuries from around the league. That's usually what the notable news is around this time of year as we enter the beginning of the season and as exit spring training. We'll start off with first base Freddie Freeman, as he was scratched from the Dodgers lineup with left rib discomfort. Although he said he had a 75% chance to play in the following game today, he will be held out of the lineup. It does sound like it is a pretty minor injury, considering he felt fine enough to play not only in the opening game, but also in the latter game. Suggests he should be ready for real opening day in about a week. So not a lot of concerns here with Freddie Freeman, though he did miss these first two games, which is super unfortunate for the people that were trying to get out in front of their leagues by drafting Freddie Freeman early on and getting those first two games in early on in the season and, getting ahead in front of your fantasy league mates. Next, we have Edward Cabrera, who will start the season on the 15-day IL with a blister on his finger. Super unfortunate, because Edward Cabrera always feels like a guy who's about to break out. His stuff is absolutely incredible. He just has no idea where it's going. If he could ever figure out where it's going, Edward Cabrera could have a huge breakout. Right now, we're going to have to put that on hold as he deals with a finger issue. The blister, as I previously mentioned, that would definitely have a major effect on his control. Right now, it looks like Connor Gillespie could be filling in as the team's fifth starter. That would be for the Marlins. Gillespie is a 27-year-old former ninth round pick of the Orioles back in 2019. He actually pitched yesterday, tossing 4 innings, allowing 2 hits and 1 run with 2 walks and 2 strikeouts. He induced 5 whiffs with 25% CSW. I don't really think he's going to be somebody that is fantasy relevant. However, in super deep, especially NL only leagues, Gillespie could be somebody that is out there available on your wire. I wouldn't expect a lot from him, but there will be innings there, at least for the first couple of weeks of the season. A different pitcher, we have John Gray. He pitchers for the Rangers, not for long, though, as he is dealing with a fractured wrist. We talked about that yesterday. Official now, he will be placed on the 60-day IL and will miss at least the first 2 months of the season. Yesterday, I reported a 6-week timeline for John Gray. It looks like that probably will be how long he is not going to throw for. And then once that 6 weeks is up, he'll probably start to ramp up. So that's where a 2-month timeline comes from for John Gray. Should line up pretty well with the 60-day IL. In a move to make up for John Gray's injury, the Rangers brought in Patrick Corbin, signing him to a 1-year deal. It doesn't look like he's going to be on the opening day roster, or at least in the opening day rotation. It still looks like Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter are safe, though Corbin is somebody who can be a contingency plan. If somebody gets injured, he provides a lot of depth there as well. Though I really wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers, turn heel and decide to put Corbin in the opening day rotation, take out some of those rookies like Rocker or Leiter, allow them to have more time to develop in the minors, and let Corbin sort of handle things until they get everything settled in the rotation. I wouldn't expect much from Corbin, though it's been a while since he's been out of the nation's capital, so maybe a change of scenery helps him get back on track. There is something to be said for his reliability. He was always able to go out there and throw a bunch of innings. I know the Nationals were sort of forced to do that with how much they were paying him, but if the Rangers can figure something out, Corbin is somebody that can rack up a bunch of innings. Next, another guy we talked about yesterday, outfielder Jung-Hoo Lee, who's dealing with some back soreness. He plays for the Giants, and he underwent an MRI yesterday, and the results of that showed no structural damage. So no concerns here with Jung-Hoo Lee moving forward. He should be good for opening day. Next, we have starting pitcher Yu Darvish. He was prevented from making his last start a couple of days ago due to shoulder fatigue. The team decided to not have him throw for a little bit because it seemed as though his arm was tired, which is very concerning this early in the season, unless he's been throwing all off season, which I would assume is the case for somebody like Darvish, who seems to be a tinkerer, somebody who really loves the craft of pitching. So I would not be surprised if he is somebody that pitches throughout the offseason, but it is clear that there's something wrong with his arm. And then manager Mike Schilt revealed that he's also dealing with elbow inflammation. I don't know if that's regardless of the shoulder fatigue. I don't know if those two things are happening at once or if the shoulder fatigue was to cover up something more serious with the elbow inflammation. So, the concerns continue to grow with Yu Darvish. Is he going to begin the season on the IL? That has not been ruled out right now. Mike Shildt said he could have the start of his season affected by these injuries with his arm. So everything up in the air right now with Yu Darvish. Though if you're in a shallow league, I myself have him in my 12-team home league. I'm considering dropping him and trying somebody else on the waiver wire. Right now is the best time of the year to make moves like that, especially somebody who you took later in drafts like Darvish, because the options right now are as good as they're going to get. Literally, there's not going to be more players on the wire than there will at any point in the season. You have the pick of the litter right now. So if you're looking for someone to replace Darvish, now would be the time to do that if you are concerned that he's not going to impact your team positively this year. Now we'll talk about a couple important Orioles injuries. Gunnar Henderson, obviously dealing with that intercostal strain. He took batting practice yesterday, though, so that's a good sign that he's moving forward with the injury. He still could be ready for opening day, though that is still up in the air. I would love to see him get back in a game or at least, take some live batting practice against, a pitcher actually trying to strike him out. But it looks like Gunnar Henderson moving forward could be ready for opening day. And the other Oriole we'll discuss is Grayson Rodriguez, who obviously dealing with the elbow injury. He threw from 75 feet yesterday, but he's still got a lot of work to do to get up to speed. Right now, reports are suggesting that he could miss the first month of the season. I know that's probably what most of us were expecting, but now we're getting a more clear timeline as he starts to throw again. And the last injury we'll discuss is designated hitter Masataka Yoshida. He underwent shoulder surgery in the offseason, and he is most likely to begin the season on the IL. That is the report from the manager. How the lineup would shift around, we'd see Rafael Devers shift from third to DH, which he made such a big fuss about in the offseason, but now it seems as though he's open to helping the team in that regard by moving over to DH. Maybe once Yoshida's healthy, we see Devers move back to third, but right now it looks like he's going to be at DH, which allows Alex Bregman to shift to third, so he won't be getting that second base eligibility super early on in the season. And then at the keystone position, we'll see a platoon between David Hamilton and Romy Gonzalez. I am interested to see, though, how all of this shakes out once Yoshida is back from the IL, because he was playing in a spring training game yesterday. So it's not like he's so injured that he's unable to play, and that's why he's going to begin the season on the IL. It's probably because of a roster crunch and likely because they have a reason to place him on the IL. He's not maybe 100% recovered from the shoulder surgery. So I would expect him to be back at some point early in the season, some point in April. So it'll be interesting to see how Alex Cora manages all the personalities in that lineup to make sure everybody's happy and everybody's getting at bats. Now let's talk about some of the news. We only have a couple notes here. Third baseman Kobe Mayo was optioned to AAA by the Orioles. Somewhat interesting considering he is one of their top prospects and had a huge season in the minor leagues last year, but Kobe Mayo will not be on the opening day roster for the Orioles. I wouldn't expect him to be down for long. It's not like he's got a ton of competition right now. The two right-handed bats they have on the bench that they're going to in deference to Kobe Mayo are Ramon Urias and Ramon Laureano. Got a pair of Ramones there. Neither of them are really guys that are going to prevent a top prospect from getting the rightful place on the roster. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Kobe Mayo. And there's a spot for him to play every day, in my opinion, at DH. I know Ryan O'Hearn has really been killing it the last couple of years for the Orioles, and Gary Sanchez is a lefty masher. But if you want a top prospect who has, all-star potential to be in that lineup and start to grow as a major leaguer, now's the time to do that. Put Kobe Mayo in at DH. I think we could see that at some point in late April, early May, if they are trying to mess around with service time stuff. And our last bit of news involves relief pitcher Craig Kimbrell. He signed a minor league contract with the Braves. He could get a shot in this bullpen. I don't know if it's going to be early on in the season. There's something to be said about the ramp-up process. You never know when a free agent signs if they're going to be game ready as soon as they're signed, or if they're going to need now some additional time to ramp up. I would expect the latter here with Craig Kimbrell, though I wouldn't expect Hector Neris or Aniel De Los Santos, both guys on minor league deals with non-roster invites, that I wouldn't expect those guys to prevent Kimbrell from ultimately or at some point getting into that bullpen. And maybe becoming a factor in holds. Maybe a return to his old stomping grounds gets him back on track to being a Hall of Fame reliever. I wouldn't expect Kimbrel to get any saves this year, but there's a possibility he records at least a couple holds for the Braves. All right, now let's take a look at the notable performances from yesterday. Obviously, we had the first game of the regular season as the Cubs took on the Dodgers in Tokyo at the Tokyo Dome. Let's first look at the notable hitting performances. On the Cubs side, not much to talk about. It was a 3-1 ball game, and so we had one hitter who produced the only extra base hit and the only RBI. That was a Miguel Amaya. He went 1 for 3 with a double and a run batted in. I am somewhat excited about Amaya. I wish that he could get more playing time. It looks like the Cubs are wary of pushing him too much. I don't know if that's because of injury issues in the past throughout his minor league career, but he was a top prospect for a long time, is now finally getting the chance to play every day as the Cubs backstop, and is having success against some of the top pitching talent for the Dodgers in a new and exciting place in Tokyo. So that's got to be, a lot to take in and still have a lot of success. So that's Miguel Amaya for the Cubs. With Carson Kelly back there, I'm unsure if he's going to be allowed to have that full breakout. I feel like it might be suppressed if his playing time is limited because of Carson Kelly's presence. But if he does really get a full 450 to 500 plate appearances behind the plate, Miguel Amaya could have a big season on the offensive side this year. Now let's look at the Dodgers' notable hitting performances. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani went off in Japan. He went 2 for 5 with a pair of runs and a double. I don't think there's any reason to expect him to slow down, especially with this incredible lineup around him that just continues to grow and improve. Right now, I know they're dealing with tons of injuries, both Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts absent from the lineup in Tokyo this week, but Ohtani can sort of handle it himself, and he proved it on Monday in Tokyo. The other player that had a good performance for the Dodgers was Michael Conforto. He went 1 for 4 with a double. I honestly think we underrated how much of an impact Conforto could have in fantasy this season. I feel like because of the lack of production he had in between the surgery seasons after leaving the Mets. So he had that full season where he missed a full season and then went to the Giants, didn't really perform in that first season. Last year, he was pretty good. And now he goes to the Dodgers, who are notorious for turning batters into superstars. And it's not like they're taking Conforto from the doldrums and trying to make him an all-star. This is a former all-star who they're trying to get back on track. And so I see that as something that's possible, especially if they're managing his playing time enough to avoid future injuries and also allow him to, bat to his allow him to have the most success as possible facing only right-handed hitters. I feel like we're underrating Conforto in shallower leagues where you have the freedom to stream. I think Michael Conforto is a beautiful option for that. And in deeper leagues, I think Conforto is going to be pretty underrated as somebody who plays, more often than not and has a lot of success at the plate in an incredible lineup. Now let's take a look at the notable starting pitching performances from Monday. We'll start it off with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had a great game against the Cubs, tossing 5 innings, allowing 3 hits and 1 earned run. He walked 1 and struck out 4, inducing 11 whiffs with 32% CSW across 72 pitches. He went 80% four-seamer splitter in this one. Somewhat expected, but also Yamamoto is a guy with a wide arsenal. He's got a curveball. He threw that a couple times, and he's got a cutter as well. There's a couple other pitches he throws in there, but he really focused on the four-seamer and splitter, and it worked. He got 9 whiffs with the splitter, but the fastball didn't really have the success you want him to. It wasn't upstairs. That's the big thing that Nick has always talked about, and I will echo him on that if Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw his four-seam fastball upstairs, he would get a ton of whiffs with the pitch and find more success. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's him or if it's the Dodgers, but he doesn't do that, and he doesn't get the whiffs with the fastball. We saw 0 whiffs on the four-seamer yesterday, though he threw 29 of them. So I think we're going to have to see that pitch elevated more if Yamamoto really wants to take off into that upper tier of aces. If not, he's still going to be in that second or third tier of pitchers because he's not getting the same number of strikeouts as you would expect from an ace. The other pitcher on the mound was Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. He tossed 4 hitless innings, allowing no runs as well. He walked 4, though, while striking out 2, inducing 12 whiffs with 28% CSW across 69 pitches. Imanaga set a career high with those 4 walks. So very, I wouldn't say concerning, honestly. I would say uncharacteristic there for Imanaga. Not usually the type to go out and walk a bunch of guys. Apparently confirmed last year, he led the National League in walk to strikeout rate. So he has a history for being a guy that doesn't walk guys and can strike out guys. We did not see that on Monday. He had a negative walk to strikeout ratio. I think that will change moving forward. I think there could be some opening day jitters, especially playing in your home country in front of all those fans. It's got to be a lot of pressure on you. So I can understand maybe a little bit of control issues. He also went 84% four-seamer splitter. So big four-seamer splitter game here from the 2 Japanese pitchers. He, though, was able to have, and by he, I mean Shota Imanaga, was able to find some success with the fastball, 5 whiffs on the heater, while he got 7 whiffs on the splitter, though he could not find the zone consistently across the board. Obviously, you want the splitter to fall below the zone, but the fastball was all over the place. Like I said, I think Imanaga will be able to fix this moving forward, and I have no concerns. Even still, he threw a no-hitter, so or at least across 4 innings he did. So he still had success despite having no control in this one, so we can expect a lot better moving forward from Imanaga. I'd also like to mention Cade Povich, who pitched in a spring training game versus the Blue Jays. He also tossed 5 hitless innings. He walked 3 while striking out 6. There was no StatCast in this one, so no whiffs totals, but it looks like Povich could be the 5th starter for the Orioles. He was a top prospect for them for a couple of years, and he's proving to have the ability to take down major league hitters. So Povich could have a huge breakout this season, and I don't see a lot of people talking about him. So he's probably available in your league. You probably have the ability to go trade for him in a deeper league. If people aren't paying attention to spring training, Cade Povich looks like he's about to break out. And now we'll take a look at the relievers that pitched on Monday. We'll look at the Dodgers side as the Cubs didn't use their high leverage options, though they did turn to Ryan Brazier, which I thought was cool because he was facing his former team in the Dodgers. But let's first look at Tanner Scott, who got the save for the Dodgers. I think that might have been expected considering he was the big free agent acquisition, though there's tons of talent in that Dodgers bullpen. You have no idea who's going to get the save. Is it going to be Trinan? Is it going to be Kirby Yates? Is it going to be, any of the other guys who have gotten saves in the past? There's plenty of options there. Today it was Tanner Scott. I would expect him to get the majority of those moving forward. And it was nice to see him get that first save so that we have that confirmation right away that the Dodgers are going to trust him and use him in that traditional role. So Tanner Scott looks to be the closer for the Dodgers moving forward, though we'll have to see a few more games to confirm the usage is going to be as strict as we expect it to be. In terms of holds, we saw 3 guys get holds: Anthony Banda, Ben Kasparius, and Blake Trinan. No surprises there, though. Kasparius was a starter and is now shifted to the bullpen, and it looks like his stuff is playing up, so maybe a big breakout season incoming for Ben Kasparius out of the bullpen. He added a mile per hour of velocity on his heater, and most notably 3 inches of induced vertical break, so the fastball looks to be becoming more or less hittable as he gets more rise on it. So hopefully he can find more whiffs with that. He also replaced his slider with a cutter, so a lot more velocity here, different movement profile. Let's see if Ben Kasparius can take a big step for the Dodgers. So before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. And now we'll look forward to Wednesday, March 19th. Obviously, we just have one game again, the second game of the season, Dodgers versus Cubs in Japan at the Tokyo Dome for the Tokyo Series. Our matchup for the day on the mound will be Roki Sasaki versus Justin Steele. Super exciting. We got another Japanese pitcher on the mound. It's almost like they planned this to happen, have all the Japanese players play in one game in Japan to open the season. Roki Sasaki, super exciting, will be making his major league debut. He's got electric stuff. I do wonder if playing in Japan will be a little bit easier for him. I feel like there is some pressure being on that big of a stage in front of, all the fans that already know who he is. But there is something to be said about playing in the country where you were born, where the only place he's played outside of spring training. So I would expect Sasaki to not have many nerves in this game, though I wouldn't be surprised if he makes me look foolish, especially sort of suggesting that a Dodger might have success. And, I'm supposed to be an unbiased baseball reporter, but it's hard rooting for the Dodgers, even for an unbiased baseball reporter in this day and age. So on the opposite side of Roki Sasaki will be Justin Steele, the southpaw. He is very good. He is not going to blow your socks off, but he will find success on the mound. So I'm looking forward to him taking down the Dodgers in this one. Let's look at the lineups real quick. Not too many changes here. Obviously, Freddie Freeman out of the lineup again. So when I reported yesterday, the lineup that they had submitted ended up being different for the game. So we saw Kike Hernandez move over to first base, which I had no idea he was able to play, which saw Teoscar Hernandez move up in the lineup, and same with Will Smith and Max Muncy, and Michael Conforto shift in and play in left field. So it looks like he will be in the lineup again versus a lefty again. So we won't get an idea of what the Dodgers lineup is going to look like versus righties, but we got confirmation what that will look like versus a pair of lefties. And it looks like we're going to see a lot of Andy Pages, Miguel Rojas, and Kike Hernandez. The Cubs lineup remains unchanged except for the backstop position. We talked about Miguel Amaya earlier, but Carson Kelly will be filling in today. I don't know if that's just because it's like a, special series. You want to give everybody a chance to play in the big Japan series, or if it's just an opportunity to keep Amaya healthy or fresh. And I expect them to do that a lot throughout the season. They spent a lot of money on Carson Kelly, and I think that's because they want somebody that they can rely upon as a backup catcher that plays more often than most backup catchers. So I think we could see a lot of Carson Kelly, and Miguel Amaya could be sort of screwed out of some playing time there in Chicago. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord to interact with and support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.